It's good to be with everybody. My name is Greg Metzger. I'm the associate publisher at New City Press. Don't worry, you won't be seeing much of me. I know there's lots of other people that you're here to listen to and to see and to encounter tonight. But I did just want to take a moment on behalf of New City Press to welcome you and to really just say a little bit about Aimee and about her new book with us that we're here to help launch and discuss and engage with and celebrate. So Aimee's book that has just come out in July is a part of a new series that New City Press has been publishing for the last year. It's the third book in the series. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it because I think it'll really give you a sense of what Aimee's doing in this new book and in this project. So the name of the series is the Magenta series. And on the color wheel, magenta lies directly between red and blue. Just like the books in this series do not lie at one limit or another of our hopeless, simplistic, two-dimensional, antagonistic, binary imagination. This is the vision that we have for magenta. Often in the broader culture, any answer to a moral or political question gets labeled as liberal or conservative, red or blue. But the Magenta series refuses to play by these short-sighted rules. Magenta will address the complexity of the issues of our day by resisting a framework that unnecessarily pits one idea against another. Magenta refuses to be defined by anything other than a positive vision of the good. And if you know anything about Aimee Murphy and about Rehumanize International, this Magenta vision really fits well with what they're about and what Aimee's about. And so we were so excited when Aimee sent her book our way, sent the manuscript, and we began to think about it. And the series editor for Magenta is Charlie Camosi. And Charlie, in looking at the manuscript and talking to us about Aimee, this is what he ended up writing about Aimee and her work. He says, "We are so proud to be publishing Aimee Murphy's vision of a consistent life ethic. Long a champion of this way of thinking and living, her particular vision has been very important for some time. But now, at this cultural moment, it is absolutely essential. Accessible and readable for many different people, this book will be especially resonant with young people who are committed to justice and nonviolence, but who are unsatisfied with the typical political and ideological paths offered to express their commitments." This book is about as magenta as a book can get, Charlie says. So we were really excited to have this book be the third book in our series for the Magenta series. And I've really just appreciated not only reading what Aimee's written, but really getting to know her. And I just wanted to share with you, because I think many of you already know Aimee, but for those of you that don't and haven't read the book yet, Aimee has this really unique combination of a really strong work ethic together with a real vulnerability. And it really comes out in the book in the sense that this book is for people that really want to do something. There's a real practicality of the book that I think reflects her work ethic, but also the vulnerability of the message of the book. So this book it won't feel like a should book to you. It's more of an invitation to live into these important issues that she addresses in the book. So I'm just excited. We're excited to be publishing the book, and we're excited to really see what she's got for us tonight in this discussion between her and some of her friends and colleagues. So we're excited to be with you all to hear and experience this. And I'm happy to hand it over to you, Aimee.
Thank you, Greg. It is so exciting to finally be at this moment, to be able to share my book with the world. I already have my own copy that is like practically folding away and, already underlined and circled dozens of times already, and I'm so excited that you all finally have the opportunity to receive it. So first, before we get started, I just wanted to let you all know that I am going to do a little hangout after the event. Basically, after the program here is wrapped up, there will be just like a Google Hangout hosted by the Rehumanize International Google Meet space, where we can hang out. So I'll share that link at the end. So don't worry if you have a bunch of questions at the end that don't get answered, because there are too many questions during Q&A. There will be time for it. Okay, so if in case you don't know me, my name is Aimee Murphy. I am the founder of Rehumanize International, and I have a whole huge story that I'm sure could go in its own memoir someday down the road when I'm older and have more life experience. Technical issues backstage. I'm trying to resolve them, but long story short, I grew up in California, had a just life-shattering, let's say life-altering conversion experience to be anti-violence as a teenager, because an ex who had raped me threatened to kill me if I didn't have an abortion, and it just radically changed my life. And I moved away from that hometown because I had a lot of traumatic memories from living there. Eventually moved out to Pittsburgh, where I live now with my husband of 10 years, Kyle, who I'm so grateful for, and our two housemates, Marion and Sarah, and our dog Domino. We love supporting Rehumanize International and have since the very first day of its inception. It came to exist because of a conversation between myself and the other co-founder, Nick Neal, in an LGBT pro-lifers group. And I said, I have a passion for this thing called the consistent life ethic. Is anyone else interested in maybe starting an organization around it? And Nick wrote back to me and said, this sounds amazing, let's do it. And that day, so August 15th, 2011, almost 11 years ago, 11 years next week, we founded what was then Life Matters Journal and what is now known as Rehumanize International. Our central philosophy is that each and every human being has intrinsic worth, just inherent dignity as members of the human species, and therefore that all human beings deserve to live free from aggressive violence. And that includes, abortion and the death penalty, war and euthanasia, assisted suicide, embryo destruction, police brutality, torture, etc. Like the list could go on and on. Ever since then, it has been just a beautiful work of love and compassion and passion, I'd say, just propelling this organization and this movement of nonviolence and peace and justice for all humanity. I stepped down as the executive director in, say, January of last year, of 2021. And Herb Garrity stepped up and filled those shoes as the executive director and has really made the role his own. And when he stepped down, I was really able to focus my time and my energy on writing this book, which has been in the works since probably 2016 or 2017. I went back and looked at the first iterations of the outline for the book, and I think the last edits had been done in 2017. So it really shows you this has been a project that's really been long in the making, and it has required so much research and re-research, especially because often the details around these issues can change so fast, particularly when it comes to public policy. So it's been a truly unique situation, unique opportunity to be able to bring this to New City Press and their Magenta series. I wrote this book because I mean, almost everything around Rehumanize International has resulted from me coming into pro-life activism, to anti-war activism, to consistent life ethic activism as a teenager, and not really knowing where to go, who to learn from, who to engage with, you know, like what organizations I would fit in with. Because when I became pro-life at 16 years old, I was a queer liberal atheist. And the only thing that's changed about that is I'm no longer an atheist, but, you know, like, where do I fit in to these movements that, you know, are often very partisan, when I embrace this holistic, consistent life ethic philosophy, and that, you know, really challenges both sides. So in creating the organization, I created a space where I would have felt welcome as, you know, little queer 16-year-old me. But I also realized in the process of training new interns and new staff members and new young leaders in the Rehumanize organization that unfortunately there was no comprehensive resource that really delved into the issues of the consistent life ethic in a strategic and you know, like, in-depth enough way, while also being accessible to the modern Joe or Joette Schmo. So that's essentially what this book is. I would love to show you the table of contents here just a little bit, so you know what to expect when you open this lovely book. Essentially, I talk about a philosophy for all humanity. What is the consistent life ethic? This is part of the section I'll be reading from because it just goes over the larger philosophy as a whole. But then we break it down into the 4 following sections, which talk about the individual issues within the consistent life ethic, what they are, what their ethical ramifications are, what the history of policy and culture around them are, and a non-violent policy solution going forward. From there, we also talk about, you know, like, common questions when it comes to these issues, and then answer those questions, and then pose some discussion questions for you all as readers, and then some suggested reading. Finally, we end with ending dehumanization, rehumanizing the world. And this final section really can give you some solid tools to take these philosophies to your daily life, you know, like in the community that you live in. So I'm going to do a brief read, well, a brief-ish read from this book. But I totally, car alarm. Thank you, car alarm neighbor. I appreciate that. So I'm going to read some from chapter 1 and a little from the last chapter before we move on to our conversation with Martin and Savannah. And hopefully we won't run into too many technical issues hosting that conversation, but we'll get into this first. So chapter 1, a philosophy for all humanity. In picking up this book, you've proven that you care about making the world a better place. If we want to see authentic change in the world, each and every one of us needs to be invested in building a more humane future. The work that you are doing here matters. With this book, I am hoping to lay the cornerstone of the solid foundation of a world beyond violence. I want to secure a future with human rights for all human beings that we will build together. What is the consistent life ethic? It's the belief that all human beings, by virtue of their inherent human dignity, deserve to live free from violence. Every act of violence against a fellow human, as an intentional use of force meant to harm or kill, is an attack on our shared inherent human dignity. Each human being, a member of our rational species, is unique, unrepeatable, inimitable, irreplaceable. Each human being has a unique selfhood. You can't just swap out one person with another. Any reasonable human would agree that switching out spouses or best friends for a similar make and model would disregard their dignity and diminish our own. We are more than the mere sum of our parts or our traits. What makes us unique is not just our eye color or our hair color or tone of voice or height or Myers-Briggs personality type. Human beings have an untouchable aspect of self, a je ne sais quoi to who we are that makes it impossible to substitute any one of us with another. If a human being is killed, someone irreplaceable and unique in all of time and space vanishes. This terrible reality is the reason why opposition to violence is foundational in ethics and philosophy. This truth of our human existence is the reason I embrace the consistent life ethic, or CLE. In practice, the consistent life ethic opposes every form of aggressive violence: embryo destruction, abortion, war, military torture, police brutality, torture in the justice system, the death penalty, euthanasia and filicide, assisted suicide, abuse, enslavement, homicide, and every other form of aggressive violence against human beings. This long list does not mean that the CLE does not value single issue work. Spending time and energy to end the death penalty or to end abortion is good and necessary. The vital point is to maintain a consistent life ethic in all that we do. Next, I'm going to read from chapter 12, which is put these ideas into action. There are plenty of ways to live out the principles described in this book, all involving different levels of commitment. At minimum, you could simply avoid committing acts of aggressive violence against human beings in your own life. In the event of an unplanned pregnancy, choose life. Do not become an executioner. Do not commit war crimes, etc. Looking at the consistent life ethic as simply a list of actions that are wrong and not taking part in them would be sufficient and perfectly tolerable. However, we know that this philosophy is more than that. Because in the modern world is plagued both by violence and by a sense of apathy about or acceptance of that violence, it is critical that we unsettle the status quo. Even if you talk the talk, you've still got to walk the walk. And that action can begin wherever you are. All politics is local, and violence is taking place in your community. Live peace and justice daily. Ultimately, the things we do daily, weekly, monthly in our own communities are more important than a single vote in nearly any election. Enact justice. Live peace daily, right now. Where you are. Voting every 4 years cannot be our sole action towards supporting human rights. The work begins again each day. It doesn't end because elections are over. How we choose to live daily for and in solidarity with the marginalized and oppressed will always have more of an impact than your one vote for president or Senate or any other major political office. Statistically, your vote will have an infinitesimally small impact on the outcome of a race, but 100% of the time, it will impact your own conscience. Your vote indicates which groups of humans you are willing to sacrifice for the greater good. Rather than justifying compromise, make a commitment to yourself and to your community to live justice daily. Don't expect politicians to do it for you. Use your freedom for community. Though freedom has been touted as my nation's ultimate value, I challenge our hyper-individualistic interpretation. I recently learned that the word free comes from the Indo-European word freya, meaning beloved. Fun fact, my name, Aimee, also means beloved. Oh, and the word friend also comes from that same root word. Historically, a free person was someone who was, quote, joined to a tribe of free people by ties of kinship and rights of belonging, end quote. Freedom was, quote, the idea that together we can ensure that we all have the things we need: love, food, shelter, safety, end quote. It was a model of interdependence. We need to recover this idea that no human is an island. Our freedom is for community, is for solidarity, is for mutual aid. A holistically pro-life culture will be marked by mutual aid, solidarity, and community. Living those principles starts wherever you live. It takes effort to connect with your community. Building actual relationships with those in need is hard. It can be physically exhausting to help a mom care for a colicky baby when she needs emergency babysitting. It can be emotionally challenging to uproot structural racism in your hearts and your communities by pursuing reconciliation and reparations. And it can be hard on your self-control to part with the $10 you were going to spend on a fancy drink at Starbucks in order to buy a pack of diapers or wipes for a family in need in your neighborhood. But we can't create a pro-life culture if we continue to stay up in our ivory towers and just talk about abortion or euthanasia or police brutality or war as if they're merely academic topics to be debated. These issues of violence really impact real individual humans. And it's our responsibility to really get our hands dirty and meet people where they are. I challenge you to do the hard work of building community, of living solidarity, and constantly giving your life in mutual aid to others in that community. I challenge you to build integrated lives where your convictions and your actions align. This philosophy, the consistent life ethic, is much more than passively saying no to violence. Rather, we must actively affirm the value of each individual human life. We must agitate against the systems and institutions of injustice and confront those who uphold and defend them. Fundamentally, this is the work of changing hearts and minds. The most effective way to do this is regular in-person contact with those who agree, as well as those who disagree on these vital issues. In other words, if the problem is violence and dehumanization, the answer is connection, community, and rehumanization. Now I would love to really break open this conversation and invite Savannah Ackerman and Martin Sheen on the screen with me, if they'd be so happy to. I think our moderators are gonna bring them up as well. So Savannah Ackerman is an activist, minister, and mom who has worked both as a volunteer and professionally to promote the intrinsic value of every human being through the consistent life ethic. She helped found and has led the DC, Maryland, and Virginia chapter of Rehumanize International. And her newest project is creating resources to educate and inspire action through Consistent Life Catholic, which can be found on social media at CL_Catholic. And that bio is on the Zoom presentation. And I believe Martin is also on the line. So I'll do a little.
Hello.
Hi, Martin. How are you doing?
I'm good, Amy. How you doing?
Doing well. I'll read
Good.
a little bit of your bio, but I know people know who you are, but maybe some don't. I don't know. Maybe they know who I am, but not you. That would be strange, but fair, I guess.
Okay.
So Martin Sheen was endeared to audiences nationwide for his 7-year run as President Bartlett on NBC's award-winning series, The West Wing. He uses his dynamic presence and celebrity status to lend an inspired voice to peace and social justice issues. The Emmy and Golden Globe-winning actor is an endorser of the Consistent Life Network and a fervent promoter of the principles of Catholic social thought in word and in action. Martin Sheen's passion for activism and its necessary place in today's political, humanitarian, and social arenas has inspired generations. So thank you so much, Savannah and Martin, for being on the call today. I appreciate it. So Martin, unfortunately, has to attend over a landline today due to COVID-19 situation. But we've been chatting for weeks now. So those of you who are bummed about that, same, but it's okay. We work with the resources that we have to make the change that we can, right?
I should say that it has far less to do with COVID than it does to my inability to operate a computer. Frankly, I don't even know how to turn one on. And my daughter Renee is usually the engineer around here for such communication, and we've done this before. However, she's not available today, so I'm afraid you're stuck with just me being on the phone, which took quite a lot of engineering to read. With all the instructions that Amy gave me yesterday to make this call, I'm surprised it got through. So
yeah. Well, thank God for that. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for taking the time and the energy to be here.
I'm delighted. Thank you for inviting me.
I actually want to take a moment of silence because today is not only the anniversary of the day that Nagasaki was bombed by the United States using nuclear weapons, but it is also the anniversary of the date of two brilliant nonviolent Catholic activists and just brilliant people. Teresa Benedicta of the Cross, or Edith Stein, who was killed at Auschwitz because she was Jewish, and Franz Jagerstatter, who was a conscientious objector to the Nazi regime in Germany, and he was going to be placed under forced conscription, and he protested and instead was executed by the state. So I just want to take a moment of silence to honor the dead and to really take that moment of mourning on this terrible anniversary. Thank you. We remember them, and may their memories be a blessing. So to get this conversation started, I have some questions prepared. So if you want to answer, I think we can do Martin and then Savannah for each of these questions. So number one, In casting a vision to secure human rights for all, I believe that the foundational step is respecting, valuing, and protecting each and every human being from the womb to the tomb. I embraced this philosophy as a 16-year-old, as I mentioned, after an ex threatened to kill me if I didn't have an abortion. I knew that using violence to achieve my goals would only continue the cycle of oppression. I felt compelled to embrace nonviolence and unsettle the rest of the world from their complacency and complicity. Tell me, how were you led to the consistent life ethic philosophy, and why did you decide to embrace it? Who inspired your advocacy?
Well, principally, I was inspired by Father Daniel Berrigan, the Jesuit priest who opposed the war in Vietnam and burned draft cards in protest and eventually ended up in the federal penitentiary for his actions. And before he began his sentence, he called some friends together and gave a kind of last blessing and advocated that if they really wanted to end the war in Vietnam, they would have to fill the prisons. And someone in the crowd said, well, Father Berrigan, it's all well and good for you to advocate going to prison. You don't have any children. What's going to happen to us and to our children if we go to prison? And Dan Berrigan said, what's going to happen to them if you don't? So that was a very clear call to stand and deliver on the question of violence. And I think that this question is, of course, has been in our consciousness since the beginning of the human race, but it reached a very interesting level of understanding by the gospel when we're told in the story that Jesus says that whoever strikes you on the right cheek, turn him also the left. And we're thought, many people think that is a call to be a rug, a mat, a walking mat. And nothing could be further from the truth. It was the most radical story from the gospel, because if a man strikes you on the right cheek, it means that you are either a servant, a child, a woman, or someone that is not able to defend themselves. And if you turn the other cheek, you are saying to the aggressor, now slap me where everyone can see you. I'm equal to you. And I'm exposing your violence, and I'm exposing your inhumanity and your ego. And this is hard for us in the West to embrace. However, Reverend King did it, Nelson Mandela did it, and there are many, many peacemakers in the world, Gandhi, of course, who understood what Jesus was telling us. In other words, expose violence, expose inhumanity, expose aggression. Let people see who the aggressor is. The best way for changing it is to identify it and identify who the killers are, who the aggressors are. Today we're faced with the worst mass killer in office with Putin in Russia. He is a terrorist. He's a mass killer, and none of the other nations are calling him that. Oh, sure, we're putting brakes on trade and so forth and advocating to turn off the spigot, but nobody is calling him what he is, a mass killer, a terrorist, and a powerful position to lead a nation and leading all of these people to mass killings and murder on an unprecedented level in the modern world. So, I think that when we're faced with the reality of violence in our society, it begins in our own homes. It begins in our family. It begins in our own hearts. Mm-hmm. So I think that, this is a national, international, world issue that we have to take personal. If we don't take it personal, it's impersonal. If it's impersonal, nobody cares. So it has to really begin in our hearts when we see violence, when we when we have an opportunity to object to it, to stand against it, to expose it. With that's where the courage starts, and that's where you started, Aimee, with your courage to stand up with the person in your life that demanded you have an abortion, and you stood against him. That gave you all the power you needed because you overcame your fear. Fear is the greatest obstacle to our humanity that I think the devil has ever created. It's fear. And when we confront the fear, we get strong, and the more people that join accepting the responsibility for exposing violence, then you build a community of nonviolence.
Preach. Amen. Thank you. What about you, Savannah?
It's a lot to follow. Before I forget, I know like one of the things that we've all been thinking about, right, is like how do you live this out in your daily life and like your own life? And so the very fact that Martin is calling in and we have that ability because that's where he is at in his state in life, like I think it's a test. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be part of this conversation, especially to listen. For me, there's kind of two parts, right? I think there's like the primers that kind of got set in my heart, like growing up. And then there's being introduced to Rehumanize and Aimee Murphy and the parts that follow. But throughout, particularly high school is where I'm thinking like I got very, very interested, and kind of my primary goal became kind of teaching everybody their worth. And I gave a lot of talks to high schoolers about that at the time. Kind of, and as I've gone forward, seeing that like you can't respect other people if you don't respect yourself. You don't have an inherent understanding of like, I am worth something as a human being, which particularly growing up, right, is something we all need to hear. And that we all have our own little circle of influence, our own little, like we were put in this time for this reason. We were given the talents we have for whatever reasons, because we all have something to individually contribute. And we also all have various people in our life who we are kind of called and given the opportunity to protect or to let protect us, whatever that, may be. So anyway, that was very much part of it in high school. And I got introduced, I think, to a lot of different types of outreach and a lot of different advocacy. I am in the very unique situation where I didn't meet anyone who like was outwardly pro-choice, I will say, until like college or after, because I grew up. So I grew up in a very like Catholic community where we were all on board with it, and like, outside the abortion clinics and like doing drives for pregnancy center and that stuff. That was just always like, there are pictures of me 3 years old at the March for Life. Like my mom still goes to the March for Life. Like, so I have the very unique situation of, coming to that point. And then particularly when I was getting more involved in advocacy, and I think when I really saw that this is somewhere my life was going, and I still, even today, I'm struggling with like being a leader in this movement, but seeing the need to speak for those that I think are in similar situations like me that might not have the language or the platforms or whatever, or might not feel heard. So it wasn't really like, I didn't have my views on abortion really challenged or really like need to be deeply ingrained until I found myself in an unplanned pregnancy, in a situation where I might lose my employment. I might, like not be able to pay my bills, whatever. Were we going to have to give our son up? Were we going to be able to keep him? And that was really like the first time, because I had this huge tug on just my internal being that like, that's the way out of this and that's what to do. And I will deal with all of the heartbreak and issues that come later. But like right now, this is what, needs to happen. And it didn't. And luckily I had the huge support system that I did that allowed us not to, feel like we needed to go down that path. He's now 2.5. And today he flooded the toilet right before this call. So that's what I was doing.
Oh, love.
Oh, yeah, the mom life is real. Anyway, so yeah, then the very first conversation I ever had with my husband, he mentioned Rehumanize because he's known the Murphys for over a decade. And just something about that really like struck my heart, like this idea of like rehumanizing and treating everyone as humans and like celebrating their inherent worth. And so started following them on social media. And then when all of the police brutality things were happening in 2020 and just seeing all of the racism everywhere and not knowing how to address it, especially as a white person, and seeing Aimee post stuff on Facebook, we had never actually had a discussion. So I was like, hey, could we just talk about this? And since then, I think the ball has just continued to be rolling. So for me, again, it's whether or not I had a language for it, and it's by the grace of God, but like it's always kind of been there in my heart. And so now it's just slowly learning more about the various topics. Because like when we first started the chapter, my husband and I are very involved together. It's a very important like part of our family. And we were giving a talk and I remember saying to him like, okay, you're going to have to talk about the war stuff and the torture stuff. And I think even the death penalty stuff, because like, I don't know enough to speak to that. And then since then, through a lot of various things, and Aimee's book is now a great way to do that too. Like just learning more about the topics and letting it kind of gradually unfold to the point where now I feel confident in my ability to be an educator on these things and to be a resource to be able to point others to. So that's the very long-winded answer there.
Awesome, thank you. This is actually a really great segue into question number 2. So in seeking to build a culture of peace and life, I think that it's crucial to engage in a cycle of education, discourse, and action, and then returning to education and returning to discourse about like what's effective and, you know, like what are the actual problems that exist in our community that are barriers to people embracing a nonviolent philosophy, that sort of thing. And then returning to action and like re-engaging in this cycle over and over again. So this book is a huge step in the effort to help people from all walks of life learn about these crucial issues of human dignity. So both of you at this point have the book. I know Martin read like an early manuscript, but you both have the actual copy now. So given that, what part of the book did you learn the most from? And what was the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, I think as you remember, Aimee, when I first read the manuscript and spoke to you about it, how deeply impressed I was that you covered all of those issues, and you did it in a unique and deeply human and very scholarly level. You backed everything up with research, but the thing that was the most impressive, and I think the thing that we all have to carry away with, is the personal involvement that we need to have in all of these issues. It doesn't mean that we have to save the world. I believe the world has already been saved. I think that we really save ourselves by serving each other. And I think the best way that we can do that is by living an honest life. And wherever we see injustice on any of these issues, we become participants, whether that is by supporting an organization or reaching out to an individual or joining a demonstration or risking our reputation by standing, together in a moral issue, something that is clearly a moral issue. And we're not at liberty to pick and choose. We have to accept the cup as offered, not altered. I think in our lives, we all try to find, I appreciate this situation, but I can't deal with this one, or I appreciate that, but not this. That guy, after what he did, he deserves to be executed. And that person over there, I saw what happened. the point is that if we live a consistently honest life, it doesn't mean that we have to succeed in changing people's minds. It really only means that we are consistent in our conscience, that we will, whether we're doing something publicly or privately in our own homes, that we are the same person, we are taking the same stance, that it is a progression of our understanding of what it means to be fully human. And so, to roundabout way to try and answer your question, Amy, is that there's no issue in the book that stood out more than any other.
Mm-hmm.
They're all related. And it was like what Dan Berrigan taught me and all of the young peacemakers back in the day is, you mustn't expect that you're going to have an effect or that you're going to change anyone's minds, no matter what the issue, whether it was nuclear armament or homelessness or abortion or the death penalty, whatever it was. He tried to make us understand that we mustn't engage in these issues with the intention that we are clearly going to make a difference, because the only difference that might be made is on ourselves, and that changes the world. If the only person that shows up at a demonstration for righteousness with honesty on the issue and is morally committed, if it's only one person, that's all you have to do. You don't have to worry about convincing anyone else of the righteousness of the cause or the morality that you're advocating. You do it for yourself because you cannot not do it and be yourself. And that I'm grateful for Dan, because so often I would go to the demonstration and try to convince everybody of the right path, no matter what the issue was. I'd even go after the police or the guards who were preventing us from entering the plant or the whatever it was we were objecting to. And after a while, you just have, Dan Berrigan. I was at the first demonstration I was at. Him was in New York against the nuclear weapons, and the police came and he said, "You got 5 minutes here to clear the area. You're all under arrest." And Dan Berrigan said to the officer, he said, "Oh, come on. You very well. You agree with us. Get in here and join the demonstration." And the cop started laughing. And it was like he totally disarmed him, But but the point being made, and I'm sorry to be such a windbag about this, but I was so impressed by it, because sometimes our egos get the best of us. We think we're going to change the world. I promise you, it is far more difficult to change yourself. But if you do change yourself, I sincerely believe that the world is changed.
Yeah, it's so true. The only person we ultimately have control over is ourselves.
Yeah.
And but by living an authentic life, I think it causes ripples,
Yeah. Very much so, yeah.
Savannah, over to you. What was the most impactful, biggest takeaway for you?
I just want to listen to Martin the whole time.
That windbag Sheen there, you'll never shut him up.
I don't anytime I meet people who are passionate about this, I just get very excited. And like I said, just want to sit back and listen and be a part of the discourse. But a big part of that is listening.
So true.
And even in a way, educating is, a lot of listening and taking in as well. I think of the Dominican spirituality. I think Martin mentioned Jesuits, but I'll call out Dominicans. This idea of sitting with something and contemplating it and then sharing the fruits of your contemplation. So that's obviously what has been done here, much contemplation. But this it's this internalized, it's a change in your heart, and that's what it's flowing from, and there is that authenticity and that consistency in that. This is really you're not talking the talk and not walking the walk, it's a both and I've seen that a lot in my activism, to get also windbaggy about a lot of times I'm an educator, I'm in the resource making, I'm yeah, like on podcasts, whatever, being more of like that back person. And I've seen like recently, I really want to get more involved in like the actual getting your hands dirty, doing things, which is hard in my state in life. And anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but yeah, walking the walk and talking the talk and truly living it out. In terms, I will say immediately what impacted me, Aimee, was literally within the introduction, you have like several little, I don't want to call them infographics, but I also don't want to call them doodles, whatever those would be called.
Diagrams. Diagrams is the term. Yeah.
Anyway, those just like, I was like, yep, that's it. Okay, you can use that. And I have like little notes around them for ideas of and I was just looking back through my notes, and I'm very much like a researcher by heart, not by trade, but by heart. So I have it in there. Like if you mention an article, there's like a little book next to it. So I can look back on like, oh, this is something I want to go check out. Or if you mention a person, there's a little person drawn next to it. And obviously then like the highlights and the things that I really like. But yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to have, because there have been some books and resources put together on the consistent life ethic. And I'm excited just to have something it's here, it's real. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the books that came before about the consistent life ethic, like there are some by, there's The Consistent Ethic of Life by Joseph Cardinal Bernardin from the 90s. Right. And then there's, like collected works on the topic. And then there's basically like The Consistent Ethic of Life, its impacts, and I forget the exact title, but it's one of the recommended readings in the first chapter, I'm fairly certain. I should go back and look for it. Anyway, there were essays written on the topic. There were a book that like Cardinal Bernardin writes well, but it's like big and flowery, and like he uses lots of words and it's not very systematic. I'm like, okay, this is lovely. This is not a systematic way to teach the topic. And it kind of is built around this idea of like, yeah, we're going to take this and we're going to help educate our communities, the people who are invested in this philosophy about all the topics and how to live it. So yeah, I'm so glad it exists finally. I finally, people are like, oh, what's the consistent life ethic? And we're like, here, have a book.
Well, Ryan and I have been asked onto a podcast, which shout out to Pop Culture Catechism. We did a 2-part episode on this, the consistent life ethic and seeing it in pop culture and stuff, particularly through protest music. But I said when we were planning it, I was like, you might want to consider doing a 2-parter, because you can't just, here's the consistent life ethic, and we're not going to talk about any of the nuance. We're just going to like hit on a few of the topics, it really does like introduction and then the ability to unpack it. So I think having that too, having a singular voice, having, just something where there's the ability to learn and then there's the ability to go deeper and not one or the other, Yeah. Good job.
Okay, thanks. Next question. In our world today, when the quote unquote culture war is so hot, I try to step outside that prevailing antagonistic narrative to be a conscientious objector to the culture war. I try to keep in mind that even those on the other side of these issues are precious, unrepeatable human beings with hopes, dreams, fears, regrets, trauma, pain, and often the best of intentions. In light of this, what does it mean to you to rehumanize both the victims of these acts of violence and those who disagree with us?
Well, that's a very powerful question. I think it has to start with what we were just talking about a minute ago, and that is we have to agree on what is true. That is not an opinion. Mm-hmm. If we we witness a car accident and we're on the opposite sides of the street. We witnessed the same accident, but we may have different stories, but both of us will have to agree that it was an accident. And car A hit car B, and the result was as follows. So I think that, this whole cultural war is a reflection of how desperate we are as human beings. I think, the best part of being human is being vulnerable. But it doesn't mean being disadvantaged or abused. I think that we are entitled to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And when the leadership is such that we can't trust it, or we choose to believe something that is favorable to us, I think then is when these so-called culture wars are ignited. But they, again, are personal. They are a reflection of what's going on in our hearts, in our consciousness. Mm-hmm. And it is motivated primarily by tribalism and by fear. Mm-hmm. And so, as I say, there's nothing more important these days, I think, than in stating the truth and agreeing that it is true. And it is not an opinion of the truth or a political sideshow about what. In other words, we can't use events or societal behavior to our own advantage or to someone else's disadvantage. And the truth often hurts. I think that for Christians, for Catholics, for I can only speak for myself, and that is the coming to the realization of how broken I am personally, and how when I embrace that, I see it clearly in others, whether they're in public life, whether they're rich, poor, black, white, male, female, old or young, rich or poor, how broken we all are. And our brokenness is blessed by the emergence of the sacred, the mystery, that which transcends us, and that's what I call the mystery of God. As a Catholic, I believe in the presence of Jesus. I believe that this itinerant young rabbi who led a very powerful, righteous life nearly 2,000 years ago, I believe, and this is my belief, it's also the church, of course, but I believe that this man was God. And that that is the blessing of just being human. The old creed had a phrase that Pope Benedict changed, and I'm sorry that he did, but the old creed was, you all are familiar with, we would say, he was born of the Virgin Mary and became man. Okay? I once heard a guy behind me speaking very loud who knew all the hymns and all the prayers, and this is what I heard him say at Mass one day. He said, born of the Virgin Mary and became human. And that struck a chord deep within me, because that's the whole purpose of God's becoming human, becoming one of us, broken. And when we realize if we don't have that transcendence, in other words, if we don't really believe in anything, and I'm not saying it has to be Christian or any form of religion, if it's the universe, the one, the God, the Son, whatever it is, the other, if we don't have a firm hold on that, with that transcendence to our brokenness, then we live in despair, and we're easily misled by demigods and hustlers that are prowling about the world, seeking their own advantage at our expense. And so I think that being aware of what's going on, being people who are aware of the times in which they live, we have to be very aware that there's very little truth spoken that is universally acceptable. And if we truly believe, we have to acknowledge that other people believe other things, but their actions, if they're harmful to us and to others and to themselves, we have to acknowledge that and say, wait a minute, that's not the truth. What you are living is a lie, and you're doing it for your advantage. And so that has to be the fundamental, I think, energy of these so-called culture wars. I think we have to acknowledge that there is a truth that we can see with our own eyes, that we feel in our own hearts, that we accept in our own conscience. We accept the responsibility for neglect or rejection when we see it, and it starts with ourselves, of course. Nobody speaks for me. I can't allow anyone to speak for me because I have accepted the responsibility to speak for myself. And as far as being a Catholic, I think we have to come to understand that, to really accept what this young itinerant rabbi was preaching 2,000 years ago, this fundamental truth, we're not interested in it for the most part. And I'm not sure that if I had been a young Jewish man, a faithful follower of the religion at the time, I'm not so sure I would have followed this guy, because what he was advocating, what he was doing was upsetting the apple cart, and turning both church and state on its head. And they conspired together to get rid of him. And it's very understandable why. I'm fond of my favorite quote from the monk, the American monk. Oh God, now I'm blanking on his name. Forgive me, I'm so sorry. But Thomas Merton, I got a Christmas card with this Merton quote on it, which really sums up all of what I'm saying. Again, I'm sorry I'm such a windbag, but this quote by Merton is so powerful. It's so to the point of what we're talking about. He says, "Into this world, this demented inn, in which there is absolutely no room for him at all, Christ comes uninvited." God comes into our lives uninvited. We don't want to accept what God is asking of us. I mean, it's a very, very rough road and sometimes dangerous. But if we are going to embrace the blessedness of our brokenness and give thanks and praise in the knowledge that we are loved, and when we know we're loved, we're able to love others. When we know we're forgiven, we're able to forgive others. But we have to have the fundamental level-headed acceptance of what is true and what is not.
Fair. Thanks. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Savannah.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm just laughing
Okay.
because
Okay.
people usually fall asleep when I get started.
No, not at all.
I appreciate it because I am also a very, very long-winded person. So I appreciate ability to not be that talks the longest, I guess, but also like the freedom to do that. So like the first thing in hearing this question that comes to me, and like humanizing the victims and also the people that might, have the transgressions. I know it's something that's been a lot of us like that we've been talking about is with the issue of abortion, like how a lot of the times it's mother and child pitted against each other. And so the humanizing element that needs to happen there in realizing the statistics are horrifying, but behind every statistic is an individual person. And so what are the circumstances, what is the like internal monologue, you know, all of that, especially in that act of violence. Like, and then in terms of looking at the other side, I know, Aimee, I think you've done this before. I've never gotten the chance, but like, going and like having a sign that literally says like, hey, I disagree with you, but would you like to like have a discussion about it? And that's been very eye-opening for me, not quite going out like to a protest and doing that, but like having conversations on Facebook or over text with it's all been family members so far, but who know what I believe, who disagree with me, but like who appreciate the consistency, and so like want to have that discussion or feel safe to be able to share their opposing views, which has been really, I don't know, impactful to see. But yeah, I think always one of the ways that I've been grappling with it too is like with foreign combatants, and just I think we talked about this, but like having grown up listening to a lot of country music in the 2000s that had this very like rah rah, we went to war and yay. Yeah, and then coming back to it, like it came up on a one of the songs particularly came up on a playlist within the past like 6 months, and I had like almost had to stop my car because I'm like, oh my gosh, I sang this at a karaoke bar as a child, and this is horrific. Like the intense dehumanization, the intense trying to justify like horrible acts. And I think particularly looking, you know, tonight being the anniversary of Hiroshima, like just that trying to justify the deaths of, even if it's only 100 people, but you know, thousands, millions, whatever, is horrifying. And so again, I think coming to those realizations in ourselves, like I said, I had to deal with the whole, oof, this is like, without even thinking it, like, and I know my parents don't believe those things, but just what I grew up around, because it was the music that was on. And having to think of someone so outside of myself and from a different culture, different nation, like basically different than me in every way, but like seeing their humanity, even if I'm never going to meet them, and being very careful about the type of media I consume. Because Martin, I'm sorry, but like, especially as you're talking about a lot of this, you know, I've seen you in Spider-Man, the line about, you know, that's what's at stake here, not choice, but responsibility. And anyway, recently, my tie to that is like Andrew Garfield's in that, and then he recently did a show called Under the Banner of Heaven, which I have,
Yes,
like,
I saw that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you had the same reaction. I have been like an avid anti-death penalty advocate, and the way that the horrible crimes are depicted in that show, I got to the end of it and I was like, like I am having, I really had to grapple with it. Like I said, similarly with my situation with abortion, it was the first time that I was like, those men deserve like to die.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so again, like the pieces of media, and you know, Martin, you talked about forgiveness. That's always one of the things that I say too, is this like in acknowledging the other person's brokenness as well, and like letting that be in our humanity, and also that, yeah, violence doesn't equate violence. You know, just because someone does something horrible does not mean that something horrible should be done back to them, especially when we live in a society in which we can keep the rest of society safe from those of us who might harm them without taking their lives. So anyway.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know there definitely are a lot of pieces of media that play on our emotions, and you know, like the desire for revenge is a really strong emotion, and I think that it's something that we have to overcome, just like we have to overcome, you know, fear when it comes to unplanned pregnancy. Like there are all these different emotions that come into play, and the ultimate question is, how, like, are we going to let our emotions dominate the decisions that we make about other humans' lives?
Yeah.
And I think the answer should be no, you know? Next question. Though this book is certainly educational and heavily researched, one of the most important things that I want to convey is that we must be people who continually engage in discourse and action to create change. We must not simply be people who talk about these issues from our ivory towers as if they're merely philosophical topics for debate. So tell us, how has the consistent life ethic informed your activism and outreach? And how has your state in life impacted how you live and seek to spread this philosophy of human dignity and human rights for all?
Well, you know, as your research in your book so profoundly advocates, we cannot separate one issue from another any more than we can separate ourselves from each other. And so I think that wherever we come in contact with, and we don't have to go far. I mean, we don't even have to leave the house to, if there's anyone else living with us, to find our shortcomings or find theirs for sure. You know, I'm going to share a little story that I think relates to the topic. But I was at an AA meeting one time just after the Exxon Valdez disaster and destroyed the coast up in Alaska. And a guy was speaking, and it was discovered that the captain of the Exxon Valdez was drunk that night when they ran aground and destroyed the environment there. And this guy was speaking, and he said, "Look what our disease has done to the environment." And I thought, how absolutely perfect his decision was, because he took something deeply personal and exposed the effect it had on thousands of lives and the environment and the animal and fish life in that region. It affected the whole world. It caused a re-evaluation of our responsibility for the environment, not to mention how they started to redesign the ships that carry the cargo, the oil. So my point is that we cannot get off this road that we're all on. It's really the only road. It is the road the whole human race is traveling around the globe, so that an action here today, even a thought sometimes, can affect what somebody else is thinking. The look on your face. How often have you seen somebody look at you and, without saying a word, conveyed how they felt about you, for good or ill, and how that made you feel? And I think that we have to realize that our words do matter. Our actions do matter. They are a reflection of our heart. When you consider the evil that is so prevalent in the world, and that people would kill each other, like you're saying, Savannah, about that Mormon sect was so violent and committed such audacious crimes on their family members even. And people would say clearly, they deserve the death penalty, but I maintain that they're already dead. Anybody that would advocate or commit or support such violence and killing, they're already dead. There's a portion of their spirit that has died, has been killed by others or themselves. And until they are brought back to life, until they are resurrected, through whatever means, through being connected to their humanity in some other way, and that's our responsibility, is to assure everybody that we have contact with, or everybody that we care about, and those particularly we don't care about, that we advocate for them. I was at another AA meeting some years ago, and the guy was talking about someone who had been so audacious and cruel to him, and he said, I've got to change my my mind about that person because it's affecting me so badly. And yeah, and a guy yelled out, he said, "You got to pray for the son of a bitch." You know, I mean, that's what we have to do. We have to pray for the son of a bitch. And I say that with, I'm not trying to, you know, be sarcastic. I'm serious.
Right.
I've got a lot of them. There is at the Mass, which I cherish so. It is such a wonderful celebration of life and renewal and spirituality and power. And I love the Mass. And at the moment in the offertory, when the chalice is lifted up, I say, thank you for all the gifts of people you've given me and that I've come to love. And forgive me for all the people you gave me that I refuse to love. I lift them up now. And so I think that we are all part of the violence if we don't speak out, if we don't make our position clear, and it can be costly. If what we believe is not costly, then we're left to question its value. And I think that what your efforts are doing, Aimee, in this work that you've done is so extraordinary because you've given people a way to unite the will of the Spirit with the work of the flesh. They can't be separate and be human. So I'll just end with that.
Thank you.
I hope you forgive my vulgarity about the SOB, but that made a powerful impression on me.
Yeah,
because we all have
agreed.
SOBs in our lives, you know. But we have to pray for them, and we have to
Right.
pray. Oh, that's what he said as well. He said you have to pray for them until you mean it. You know, you really have to visualize that person and pray for them until you mean it.
Yes.
You know, even Putin.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. One of the things that I talk about and Martin, I don't know if you've gotten this far in the new version of the book, but it was not in my original manuscript. In the final chapter, there's a section called Building a Culture of Encounter. And we talk about the word sonder. It's a neologism. But it means to realize that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. And I think it's that deep empathy and understanding that this SOB in my life that, is getting on my nerves to no end, they have this entire depth within them, as John Henry Cardinal Newman would say, an infinite abyss of existence within them.
Yeah.
And understanding that, I feel like, is such a huge step to helping me rehumanize, realizing that I'm not the main character, that everyone else's life is just as precious to them, is just as unique, that all of the individuality of my own life also exists in the individuality of other lives. Of all these other beautiful people. Savannah, what about for you? How has the consistent life ethic informed your activism, and how does your state in life impact that?
So it's interesting because when we met last week to discuss, this, it would have been a different answer. And so Saturday, I, with Herb, so Rehumanize International, the chapter was to co-host an event. And it was Saturday night. It was a vigil for those lost.
At Hiroshima, right?
Yes, Hiroshima, and what was the other city?
Nagasaki.
There you go. Anyway, so it was a vigil to honor those lives lost, and it just felt very pertinent. I was getting all ready to go. We had childcare coming over. Ryan and I were going to go together, so my husband and I. And then he started to not feel well, so we were going back and forth on, okay, should we have my sister come over and still help? Because if I leave, there's still going to be an hour and a half before bedtime, and we have a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So those are not it's you can just sit back and parent sometimes. Sometimes they let us. Anyway, yeah, the whole thing. Like I said, our toilet was blocked up, and then he broke a piece of ceramic, and I think my daughter did something. It was, and this was in preparing for this call, literally in the hour I was home from work. Anyway, so this was happening on Saturday, and my sister was about to leave to come over and help watch her kids. And my little brother got in a car accident. He's fine. Car is not, but he got in a car accident. So my mom had to leave to go help him. And then my sister had to stay because my grandpa is now living with, my parents, has horrible Alzheimer's, so can't be left alone. So like, and then I was going all back and forth. Okay, do I go? Do I not? And I just had this moment of like, tonight, I think the way to do this is to kind of like vigil in our own home and appreciate our own family and these moments that were stolen. And there's a saint, I'm forgetting his name and it's really bothering me, a servant of God.
Yeah, servant of God, Takashi Nagai.
Yes. For all those Catholics, non-Catholics, we welcome everyone. And I do want to say that is one of the things that I am so impacted by and has been so wonderful for me being involved in Rehumanize that Aimee built, that is come down from her. And like I said, I grew up in a very Catholic, very conservative circle. I went to a very Catholic conservative college. I have since worked for the Catholic Church. So basically all of my contacts be Catholic until I got involved with Rehumanize. And like one of our most active members in the chapter is atheist. Herb, who runs Rehumanize, is atheist. So just getting to meet people in different, like, that we are passionate about the same things, but have like, and being able to grow in community together. I love Rehumanize DMV. If you want to hear me talk about it for an hour and a half, Ryan and I did an episode of the Rehumanize podcast where we go very in depth. But yeah, anyway, so my activism, and Ryan and I have been talking about it a lot recently, like why it used to feel so much easier to just, we live an hour from DC, closer to an hour and a half, I think now. But yeah, it used to be so easy to be like, yeah, I'll be there. And then I would show up for things and, just leading things in different ways. And so I've been reflecting on like, why all of a sudden does this seem so much harder to fit in? And I think, again, I am very much like, I want to be on the ground and do the things. And I'm realizing my role right now is very much stepping into more leadership. And like, it's hard. But yes, doing the things and sending others out, which is very much what you're doing now. What my role is becoming is like, I'm going to give you the foundation and you're going to go do this. And just in terms of like one individual person's impact, today we publicly announced, she's kind of been my co-leader. She's been a lot of different things, but one of our members, Jordan, who, her story is she came up to us at the Maryland March for Life, which literally Ryan and I started the chapter. About a month later, we're like, we should probably do stuff. There's this March for Life coming. Should we go? Should we not? Decided on the day of, I think that, or 3 days beforehand, we were going. Aimee happened to be coming to DC. So like came by, threw a bag of merchandise at us and like left. So we took it, like literally we'd had it for like maybe 30 minutes and we were out at the March for Life and Jordan walked by, was not even in Annapolis for the march, had no idea what was happening, saw the Rehumanize sign and was like, yes, I sign on to all of this. And anyway, like that night she signed up. She's been one of the most involved people since, and it's just really surprised me in a lot of ways. But we spoke together at the Rehumanize meetup for the March for Life and she talked a lot about like how much my impact had been. And I was like, not a thing, but it was just this like giving the space and the introduction to it, and it's on our social media if you want to read her goodbye, although Twitter won't let me post it. So it's on our Instagram and Facebook for Rehumanize DMV. But it really is that like letting that just be the introduction. And so if your only contribution to the consistent life ethic is to introduce someone else to it, where then they are able to go, like you've done all the good work. So.
Yeah, depending on your state in life, activism has to shift and change, right? So one final question for me, before we move on to a brief. I think we'll be able to take maybe 2 questions from the audience before we wrap it up. But since I've embraced the CLE, I've protested and signed petitions calling to save lives from the violence of all the major topics mentioned in my table of contents: embryo destruction, abortion, war, military torture, police brutality, prison torture, the death penalty, euthanasia, filicide, and assisted suicide. What consistent life ethic related actions have been the most memorable for you? And I know, Savannah, like you just talked about this moment at the Maryland March for Life, but I'm sure there are others. And which activism do you think has been the most effective in creating change in hearts and minds and policy?
Sorry, Amy, are you asking me that?
Yeah, I'm asking both of you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I can't point to a specific one because I've gone to, and I've been involved in so many issues over the years that I've committed to publicly protest and make public my feelings about things. But I can't really point to a single thing. It's always the people. It's always I'll see a face or a sign or something will move me and encourage me or equally discourage me. I never know. I go there for myself so that I can stay in touch with and know that what you believe has to cost you something. Otherwise, you're left to question its value, as I said before. But I was thinking of something when Savannah was talking about accepting people on the just our base humanity that we see and feel in each other. And then we're always surprised when people show up or turn around or embrace us or whatever. And I was just thinking of Thomas Merton again. One of the most powerful essays he ever wrote was a thing called Confessions of an Innocent Bystander. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but he wrote this essay. He rarely left the monastery at Gethsemane, but this one occasion he had to go to the doctor in Louisville, and he hadn't been out on the streets for years, literally years. And he got to the corner, I believe it was 4th and Chestnut or Walnut, and he suddenly saw all of these people, ordinary people, men and women, old and young and rich and poor and black and white. They were all just going about their normal business on the streets, walking about, shopping, talking, interacting with each other. And he suddenly realized how magnificent every single one of them was. And he said, if we looked at each other and saw what is really there, we would see this light, this power, this mystery, this godlike presence, and we would fall down and worship each other. And he said that is the biggest problem. We would spend our whole lives worshiping each other and never get anything done. I mean, but he was seeing human beings for the first time in a long time. And it was a powerful realization. I'm not telling the story very specifically, but I'm sure you get the point of it. And it's worth reading that essay.
Yeah.
I've read
that
with that one?
Yeah, I read it on a retreat, and I immediately was like, wait, this is just like Sonder. This is just like the thing. And like I think I underlined half of the essay and like was circling and like, you know, big arrows like this half the time. So it's an excellent essay. Everyone should read it.
Yeah, isn't it powerful? It's like we see each other for the first time. We get through our lives and we think we have everything in hand, and then we see ourselves for the first time in others.
Right.
I have a little prayer I try to say every day, and that's Lord, thank you for choosing to love us. Teach us how to love each other. Take away our hearts of stone. Give us hearts of flesh, that we may see in ourselves what you see in us and reflect your vision on each other.
That's lovely.
And I think that that goes to all of the issues. I don't separate any of the issues from any other, and I don't separate any of the people on one side or the other.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Savannah, do you want to continue?
Martin, thank you for your time, because this is truly lovely, and I think inspiring in that, like, every time I'm to the point of like, I don't know if I want to be as involved in this anymore, like something like this happens where it's like, yes, okay.
It's your own fault for hanging out with the hell-bent type.
Yeah.
Dang active.
So I just have one question. So Savannah, where do you live? You live in Pennsylvania as well?
No, we live near Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Yes. So
All right.
I run the Maryland, or what is it? DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia chapter of Rehumanize.
Oh, good for you. Okay. All right, guys. Well, this has been another opportunity for me to sound off, and I hope I haven't turned you off too badly. But I so appreciate your including me in this, Aimee, and I wish you all the best with that magnificent document.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Martin. I really appreciate it. And
thank you. And
I'm
Savannah, it was
sure-
a pleasure to meet you.
yeah.
You too.
I hope maybe when it's a little safer to travel and be around, maybe we'll see you at a protest someday.
Okay. You never know.
Yeah. Take care.
All right. God bless. Bye.
Mhm.
Bye-bye
Bye.
now.
Bye-bye. So I want to allow a little bit of time. I think we really exceeded our time for that.
But
it's okay because it was lovely and beautiful and so good. So I want to give the opportunity for people to like peace out if they need to. So I'm gonna say a little bit of wrap up stuff, and then we can do Q&A. We can hang out. We're gonna be here until I, like release everything in probably 10 to 15 minutes. But we have a book tour coming up very soon, and I know we've already like lost a substantial portion of people, so sorry to all the people who I forgot to talk about the book tour at the beginning. But I'm doing an event, a long book tour for like 90 plus days, starting in a week and a half. We are leaving on August 22nd, stopping at 40 plus cities, which I could read all of them, or you could go to rehumanizing.org/book-tour-2022. And basically there's a whole great old list of all of the events on the tour, and as we add the Eventbrite pages for the events, they'll all be listed there. So I am going to see if I can share my screen with you guys right here. Okay. So yeah, I am doing a big nationwide book tour. It is going to cover 13,000 plus miles. So we have stops in Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois, probably Iowa, Colorado, Utah, Montana, Washington, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, Ohio, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, DC and Baltimore, of course. We'll be hitting up Savannah and doing an event there, along with New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and maybe even an international stop in Canada. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think it really brings it brings to reality this idea that all change begins in our communities. So I'm really excited to bring this message to our local communities all over the country. And if you want to bring me to a city that's not on that list, definitely email me. I have details about my speaking also at consistentlyamee.com, where you can find more info about the talks that I give and stuff like that. I would love to come to wherever you are after my big nationwide book tour is over. So get in touch with me at Aimee@rehumanizing.org. Yeah, that's really like all the big stuff I have about the book and the tour. You can get the book online on our website. In our web store, it's $22, which is $3 off the MSRP. So it's a great deal, and it does mean that like a greater portion of the proceeds get to go back towards our work. So I encourage you to find it there, rehumanizing.org/shop. Okay, that's all those big things. I want to be able to answer some questions, but I realize that some of you did have questions reserved for Martin, so I'm sorry that he peaced out. Oh well, I guess. So we'll do what we can with what we have. That's always all that we can do. So someone asked if Martin could repeat the prayer. I know, I agree. I mean, but we're recording everything, so hopefully it will be up and posted relatively soon. Oh, Sharon Gray has a great question about price breaks. Sharon, please email us. Particularly email Sarah at rehumanizing.org. That's Sarah with an H. And she should be able to help you do a price break situation for bulk orders. Okay. I kind of want to answer one of Andrew's questions, and then I think Kathy Kelly also had a great question. So Andrew's quick question was, can you all discuss the role of the arts through a variety of mediums, books, movies, plays, television, video games, etc., and their importance in providing spaces for these topics and ideas to be expressed and seen? So Savannah, if you want to answer first, you're welcome to, and I am happy to follow up.
So many things. I will say it's a big thing that like I am doing, because I am a huge lover of all of the pop cultures. So like as I'm making more resources, which again is Consistent Life Catholic, that's like, it's my jam. But like I said, we just did an episode of Pop Culture Catechism about like protest music and music that moves from movements. Yeah, and like being a musician, I will say I'm an artist in a lot of ways, but that's definitely the way, like, and relating very much through music, and like it's that snapshot, right, of like there's something ingrained, something living in that song. And so whether it's like an inspiration or in that episode we talk about the song Brick, which is somebody's personal experience with an abortion. So it's not, yeah, Amy, we did
heavy. Yeah.
Okay. But like that song by itself, and he says like it's not a political song about abortion. It's not me wanting to stand up and be an activist. It's my personal experience with it, and it's for people who have gone through it to be able to connect with. Anyway, so, and then obviously, or if you maybe you don't know, Rehumanize does their big create encounter contest. So that's a big part of Rehumanize, is like finding expressions of art, yeah. I don't know, Amy.
I think that art helps makes idea. Wow. Okay, I can grammar. Art makes ideas accessible in big ways, because I think a lot of our ethical decisions, whether or not we want to admit it, are made by our emotions. And so connecting like authentically ethical action through more like emotional media through the arts, I think is a powerful way to tie both like the logic and reason side to our emotions and like integrate those two together in a really healthy way. You know, I just think art has a way to speak to, you know, like just beyond the logic center, and to get at something a little deeper. So whether, you know, whatever media we're talking about, I think it, you know, they're powerful ways to bring up good conversations, and also to, you know, like pass on a philosophy. So definitely a valid and valuable tool. Okay, question from Kathy Kelly. What do we do if our fellow parishioners reject us for being, for example, pro-life Democrats because they think Christians must have a partisan approach to these issues? Do you want to answer first?
Sorry, I'm reading through the questions.
Oh,
Mostly Andrew's commenting on all of the things behind me because I appreciate the appreciation for my husband's things. Anyway, okay, so the reality is, right, like we're always going to face opposition in one way or the other. It's interesting for me because I've been in communities that are like Catholic, but are like quietly pro-choice. Like nobody's going to say it out loud, but you see the face is hard and like all the other social justice issues they're right there for, but like hardened. And the other side of it, yeah, I do get a lot of like, well, you're just a Democrat. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. You don't know. Like, and so what I always say is like human rights are nonpartisan. Like this should not be. How we respond to them might be. So whether you think, you know, the way to solve poverty is going to be a top-down like federal mandate, or if you feel it needs to be like grassroots, you know, through churches, through community things, both are valid. But like we need to have that underlying like, you know, underlying understanding. And it's interesting because I literally just had a conversation with a person earlier talking about how their political party or a certain political stance has so become ingrained with like an expression of Christianity, and particularly with like celebrities or politicians that they basically let slide, because, well, the way they did this one thing and that looks really good. And it's like, no, but like, don't you see the inconsistencies then in like promoting this person? Not even like, yeah. So, and Martin talked a lot about Jesus. Like this person's point that I was talking to was like, how do you reconcile that with like reading the Bible, like legitimately? Because it's hard and it's challenging. And yeah, and in these ways, right? I think in terms of meeting people who meet us with opposition by the labels, by the instantly, you know, oh, you criticized one politician, so therefore you agree with all these others, which is always no for me. But anyway, I do think it's through having an openness and like representing yourself as best you can. But I think Martin said it, like, you're not going to change everybody's mind. And we can be like, in my case, right, I can be a good, like, look, I'm a pro-life person and I'm not crazy. Not that any pro-life people are crazy, but you know, like that's the mentality for some of these groups that I'm in. And that's why they're pro-choice, is like, whatever. Like I care about these other issues, you know? And they might never come around, and I hope to God and I pray that they do. But yeah, we got to stand for who we are, you know? And whether that be you identify with a political party or not, the magenta, which by the way, Aimee, I've had this the whole time. Kate Bryan's book, which is also in the series, Living the Feminist Dream.
Yeah, Kate and I are good friends. So when I found out hers was the first book in the series, I was like, Kate, you didn't tell me.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I briefly want to respond that I mean, I just have to agree with what Savannah is saying. Human rights aren't partisan. And, you know, if we align with people from one party or another on a given issue, you know, regardless of what it is. I think the important thing is to try to build broad coalitions of people, regardless of their political ideology, who can come together and work on specific issues in your community. So something that I think a lot of young women are really passionate about is making sure that paid family leave is a thing. And, you know, pro-life conservatives and pro-life Democrats should be able to come together regardless of their political affiliation and get that done, particularly on a state level, right? And so I think by building those coalitions, by seeking to actually get work done across those typical partisan divides, I think we can work to overcome the polarization that has become so deeply ingrained in our American culture. Because when we work together with people on the other side of an issue, you know, the more time that we spend with them, the more that we understand their motivations, I think the less likely we are to dehumanize them. And I know, like, putting yourself out there and being vulnerable with people who are on the other side, like, can feel difficult, but it's worth doing. It's worth doing every time, I think. Even when people hate you and spit at you, like, you're continuing to put yourself out there for a good cause, you know, for good, positive change.
And on that
Sorry,
note,
go ahead.
sometimes you are the person that you need, right? Like, you're the leader that you need. And that is hard. And there's a lot of times in my own life, I'm like, which really, I guess, is you, Amy, there you go. But like, I don't want to be the person that I would have needed, you know, I want someone else to do it. That's why I say it's you. But yeah, I don't know. Going back to the art thing too, like, there's a Sarah Bareilles song that was coming on for me today, and there's two. One of them is called Armor, and it's this whole thing of my armor comes from you.
Mm-hmm.
And saying like kind of this community building and like other women, that's what it comes from. But there's also a song she has called Hercules, which is kind of somber, but like the lyrics are, I have sent for a warrior from on my knees, so make me the Hercules that I was made to be. So it's this whole thing of like, I've been praying and praying and praying for someone to come and fix this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be the one that's actually has to fix it. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, ultimately you can't depend, like, you can't depend on changing anyone else's mind other than your own. So you can't rely on others to be the change. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. Which is an excellent quote from Gandhi, and it definitely was on my high school graduation announcements. So
great power comes great responsibility.
So true.
Which
so true.
Was whatever. I had like the whole speech memorized. It's just really
amazing.
But yeah, like, we have, if you have the moral ability to do those things, then you have the responsibility to do those things. That's how it was said in that movie.
Right. So, exactly.
That's correct.
So at this point, I just kind of want to wrap up the Q&A. If you want to continue to hang out with me, I am going to be over on a Google Meet meeting. I don't know if the chat is like technically open, if I'm allowed to type in the chat, because I wanted to share the link with you guys so you could see it. Let me see, everyone. Yeah, okay, everyone, here we go. So I'm gonna be in a after event hangout call where, like, if you want to ask me about the book tour or any other questions you might have if they didn't get answered, because we went way long in the conversation and therefore had to take fewer questions, so I'm sorry.
Also say, Amy, a great way to get those questions answered would be to book you to come in and speak, and then actually get plugged in your own community.
So true. Yeah, my fees are reasonable. I am not the kind of speaker who asks $10,000 for a talk. My normal speaking fee is $500, and even then I'm like, hey, if your group's budget is small, I'll work with you, because I know the message is way more important than whatever amount of money I'm making. So thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much for Savannah for making the time to be here and take part in this. I really appreciate it. I am, as I said, I'm going to be around. I hope to see you on my tour. If I'm coming near you, please make the effort to drive to whatever city I'm going to be in. I hope to get to talk with all of you, and thank you so much for coming and being a part of this beautiful event where we can celebrate my book. And getting this message out in the world. So this book is available not only at the Rehumanize website, but also at New City Press. And their website is also available on Barnes & Noble's website and Amazon and probably some others. You can also ask for it at your local bookseller. I'd also highly recommend asking for it at your local library. And this is a huge step that folks from wherever in the world you live, ask for it at your local library, request that it be added to your library, because kids are constantly doing high school reports on spicy topics. And this book is just chock full of spicy topics that are constantly discussed in high school government and social studies classes and stuff like that. And the resources out there that exist on these subjects are often not excellent. Some are excellent.
Also, I'm going to say that I've been getting out more and more pro-choice books because I finally have the stomach to actually read them. Anyway, I realize I'm making a lot of assumptions that people might be pro-life. And if you aren't on that side, it's okay, right? We can have these conversations. But anyway, getting out a lot of like pro-abortion literature from the teen section at the library. And then we don't have any explicitly pro-life books. So just saying, it's out there, because a lot of times I work with teens and a lot of parents don't want to have those discussions. So there's also the realization that like they're getting it somewhere, so it should come from you. So you should read the book so you can show other people or teach your kids.
Yeah, and for those who are asking about age range, I'd say 8th grade and up would be appropriate. If you have an especially advanced 6th grader, I'd say maybe for an especially advanced 6th grader, but I'd say 8th grade and up would be appropriate for it. Definitely high school. And I definitely wrote the book with the idea that it would be approachable for high school and college students. That way it could be used as a resource in their papers and all that sort of thing. I actually did hear from a friend of mine recently who works as a college professor that she's going to be using the book in her curriculum, like in her, it's in the syllabus for the fall semester. And that was a really neat compliment to receive, to hear that. So yeah, I don't know, you could also host a reading group with it. Again, there are great discussion questions at the end of every chapter and further reading suggestions if you want ideas for more stuff to read on this subject, because I read thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of research to get this done, and so much of it is worth reading on its own. Okay, I should probably let you go. I'm gonna go to this Google Meet hangout, so I'll see you there. I know it says it's going till 9:15. I'm gonna extend the time to at least 9:30. So I'll be over there. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your attendance. I appreciate your investment in helping share this philosophy and learn about it. And yeah, I'll see you around.